Welcome to Yorkshire Business Journal. I'm Thea Robinson, and I'm here with Simon Williams, the owner of Wetherby Property Management. So, Simon, can you please tell us about Wetherby Property Management and what services you guys offer?
Okay, Ruthie. Morning. Wetherby Property Management was established some 15, 20 years ago and was purchased by me approximately 6 years ago. It covers all aspects of commercial property. We undertake sales, lettings, rent reviews. We provide development advice, sale of property investments, so all aspects of commercial property, and occasionally that might involve add-on or spin-off residential advice. Post-COVID, we rebranded the business and trade as WPM. The reason for that being the name Wetherby Property Management. We felt people were only probably going to engage with us for properties in the Wetherby area, and we operate nationally, albeit our most effective probably within 1.5 to 2 hours of the office. But we've currently we've schemes in ongoing at the moment in Shipley, Hull, Liverpool, Ipswich, Exeter, Rugby. So we certainly get about and following our clients and their requirements. So we do have still a very strong local presence. We manage 20 to 30 properties locally, and for that and in that service we will collect rents, we'll run service charges, plan maintenance programs, and the odd letting and sale that flows from that process. So that's a little bit about us.
All right, thank you. So I realize that you guys have a number of commercial and office spaces, but I wanted to know how would you say that you're different from other property managing businesses within the West Yorkshire area?
How our office is different, or how our office space is different?
Office space.
The actual office space. We, pardon me, we in Wetherby are not what I would call a major office centre. The principal one for our region in West Yorkshire being obviously Leeds, and then from Leeds you'd see probably Bradford, Harrogate, through into York in North Yorkshire. We do have a larger number of businesses based in the town, be 200 or 300 at least, and they're based both centrally and at Thorpe Arch. These businesses and the office space we have is very, very small in comparison to Leeds and Harrogate to that extent. They're also, or our rents reflect that. So in Leeds, prime rents now would be around £30 a square foot. Our prime office space in Wetherby is probably between £14 and £15 a square foot. And then there's a lot of smaller offices over shops or converted residential property where the rents are probably more in the region of £10 to £12 a square foot. One significant change post-COVID, though, is that we've certainly attracted downsizing businesses and those coming out of Leeds who don't want to commute into the big city. They probably live locally and don't want to work at home, but want to work close to home. So we have seen and currently have a number of businesses waiting for space to come up in Wetherby, where there may be staff members based in or living in Harrogate, York and Leeds, and actually Wetherby is quite central for all those parties. And we've got the benefit of an excellent road network. The town sits on the A1, so within an hour you can be on the outskirts of Newcastle, Nottingham, Liverpool and Hull. So you really can cover quite a lot of ground from our location.
Okay. So it's kind of like prime location, prime pricing, and great marketing. And that's where I kind of want to go into next. When it comes to your services, you offer not only property management, but also advice, especially in regards to marketing. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yep. Our two principal advice sectors would be in development consultancy and the marketing and for sale and letting of commercial property. So our marketing advice, there are effectively three of us here providing advice across the county and nationally to a lesser extent. But we'll typically be putting a property every week, 10 days on the market. So we'll probably buy, let or sell between 40 and 50 properties a year. And our marketing advice is normally carried out in person. Obviously, we had a 2-year period where it was done online, but we generally will inspect, provide a short report, and recommend whether that be a paper-based solution, traditional particulars, but increasingly, and as I'm sure you'll have seen, that Rightmove has moved from residential into the commercial sphere. So we rely heavily now on Rightmove and a number of the other property platforms, but Rightmove are the market leader, with tenants and occupiers and buyers all searching on both Rightmove and on our own website. We spend quite a little bit of money on our social media as well, and we have an outsourced team that will promote properties to local interest groups, try and get us into local newspapers with press releases, etc. So generally, our marketing advice is in a pretty standard form. And it would recommend that the clients for a fixed fee, and it's nominal, around 350, 400 pounds a property. They will get marketing to all local and national property agents. So my competitors will all see what I'm doing. They'll also get put on Rightmove, so the general public can see it, and they'll get the traditional for sale boards outside the property. And ordinarily, we expect to turn an instruction into our fee account, which is obviously what we're in the business for, in around 12 to 16 weeks from start to finish. Sometimes it's longer and sometimes it's shorter. The other advice realm, and my particular speciality, is development and investment consultancy, whereby we'll ordinarily be representing wealthy individuals or property companies, financial institutions, advising them on how to either repurpose or redevelop brown or greenfield sites, and increasingly challenging the planning authorities and highways authorities to get the best scheme on the land or within the property we've been presented with. So we do a lot of work with Lidl, Aldi, the drive-through operators, which is obviously quite a big business at the minute.
All right. You also mentioned Rightmove and how you all have kind of seen the rise in that platform and have used it to your advantage. So could you tell me about some other trends you've noticed in the industry over the past few years?
Yes, so obviously the boom in Teams calls and Zoom calls, and how that's affected our, a huge time saving, in that you don't necessarily have to travel to meet your clients, albeit a slightly more difficult way of getting to know people. It tends to be very matter of fact, and you deal with the issues that you've come to address in that meeting, and there's not as much probably before and after general chit chat about the people you're meeting, what they're interested in, their families, etc. So certainly that's been a huge trend. I suppose the fall from grace of our high streets, or certain high streets, not all, but some of the secondary towns and secondary locations within secondary towns, there's a number of empty shops now, and investor sentiment is focused on prime locations in prime towns and cities, where retail is still very, very strong, albeit in certain instances there's been a correction in rentals of up to 30%. The smaller market towns and more affluent suburbs haven't really been affected. So Wetherby, we see very few shops empty, and they're reoccupied very quickly if they do become vacant. I briefly touched on it earlier. The rise in the rise to prominence of the discount retailers, Home Bargains, B&M, Lidl, and Aldi are a major force in driving out of town retail forward, and the car-borne shopper is still very important to UK property. Drive-throughs, also mentioned that. We do a lot of work with Starbucks, KFC. We do deals with Costa. I haven't actually done one with McDonald's for quite some time, but they're certainly on our radar. They do a lot of direct investment themselves. And then finally, with the COVID pandemic, the home shopping phenomenon has not escaped the UK property market. So the distribution warehouse explosion has been massive, with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, millions of square feet of distribution warehouses being built all over the UK. And Wetherby being on the main roads or straight onto the main A1, M62 link and the A64, we've benefited from quite a large amount of warehouse development, and the pressure on rents has seen a traditional smaller shed in Wetherby 5 years ago be probably £5 per square foot. Now we'd be between £7 and £10 a square foot.
Okay. Well, seeing the rise in retail properties is a bit surprising to me, especially given that we're now looking at an economic crisis with the cost of living. So could you tell me, in your specialty of advising people on how to invest, how does the cost of living kind of impact your ability to advise people on that?
That's a complicated, wider social question that you've raised there. That there's obviously absolutely no doubt whatsoever that as a nation, there is a large percentage of people that are struggling, and that is. But that also means that there is an equally large proportion of the country or our region that aren't struggling. You know, it is a fact that certain people are still successful, and it is a fact that certain people can't afford, the price of food. What we manage as a business is probably steering our property advice to the middle ground and higher wealth population, or higher wealth part of the population. So we're building for the people that can afford, and that would mean typically we see a piece of land that might well have been for housing, that now we would look to repurpose as a discount supermarket with a drive-through restaurant attached to it. And both of those would still be quite busy, because you're aiming for the middle ground and middle income, and there is still some money to spend. I'm not suggesting for 1 second that people are spending less on the high street, because that's is probably the case, but there's still certainly money to spend on good quality retail merchandise, good quality food, good quality leisure experiences. And whilst they might be infrequent, if you try to book a restaurant in Leeds this weekend, you'll find that it'd be almost impossible. You've left it too late now. It's still very, very busy, but probably people are doing less, but insist on really good quality. They will not pay for rubbish, and that people who are operating in secondary locations and not providing either a good service or a quality service will not get the business. So whilst Lidl might not look to the external eye anything special, it's an incredibly well run business, and the food quality for the price is exceptionally good. So people shopping there are getting value for money, two, good quality products in good locations, so they're not having to travel too far. So there's an eco-friendly aspect that people aren't having to travel to Meadowhall. The good local products are in Wetherby. So we have an excellent cross section from a major supermarket in Morrison's, a discount supermarket in Aldi. We've got a luxury supermarket in M&S, and then we've got exceptionally good retail traders at a local level with a fruit merchant, we've got a fish merchant, we've got a butchers, we've got shoe shops, etc. So you've got everything from high-end jewelry to discount milk and loaves of bread, all within one location. But I promise you, if you head to Meadowhall tomorrow or White Rose Centre in Leeds on Saturday, you won't be able to get in the car park. There's still people shopping, but that doesn't mean to say that there are people really struggling. And the commercial property industry it probably sits above the struggling people, and we cater for people who are spending. I suppose that's the reality of it. But it doesn't mean to say that individual companies like my own don't give to charity. We don't support local events, and we have individuals that rely on donations in Wetherby to make ends meet, and it's a challenge.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the wholehearted answer. I think it is very realistic to say that you're going to go where the demand is. And when it comes to demand, I kind of wanted to gauge what your response would be to this next question. What would you describe your ideal client to be?
And that's easy. Someone with money who's prepared to invest it. And I think receptive to changes in the market, and the information we're feeding clients that own buildings is we would spot, or we'd hope and like to think we could spot that if a property was in a poor retail location, but residential was becoming popular in that area, becomes key times to repurpose. And your ideal client would take that advice, would invest the money in changing the property from being a retail unit into a residential unit or a block of flats. Might even involve demolition or substantial refurbishment. So our ideal client definitely listens to our advice, and even more so acts on it and invests in our thinking. The majority of owners are intelligent, and I mean not necessarily intelligent to the tune of degree level qualifications, but they're knowledgeable about the property market themselves anyway. It's an illiquid form of investment. It's not easy to turn it into cash, but it is relatively straightforward to repurpose it to keep it providing an income. So it not only provides an income for individuals, it can provide income for UK pension holders, so that we have significant investment in UK property from the pension funds and large insurance companies. So whilst members of the general public might not realise it, what funds them in retirement is the income from the shops that they frequent. So everybody disappearing to shop online is not good for everybody's pensions. We still need to invest in the properties. So we need to occupy them as offices, we need to occupy them as retailers, we need to shop in them as individuals to ensure that the rent keeps flowing.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Your answers were amazing, and I wish you the best in your future endeavors.
Great. Ruthie, nice to meet you.